Well, my name is Elizabeth Freeman, but when I was born, my name was not Elizabeth. My name was Bett, and I did not like it very much because it sounded like bleh, doesn't it? Bett, bleh. So when I was little, about 6 years old, now I say about 6 years old because slaves, that's what I was. We didn't get to know our birthdays. So me and my sister, we was sent to go from New York to Massachusetts. So you have to excuse my accent because I haven't quite figured out what that sounds like, but we'll just go with it. So we was sent to go to Massachusetts, and we had to live with a family named the Ashleys. Now, Mr. Ashley, he was decent, but he was a master. But Mrs. Ashley, she was a monster. She was so mean. Me and my sister barely got off the boat when she gave us a bucket. She gave us a scrub brush and she started to get us to work. And we had to work all the time. We did not get to play. And we was only 6 and 3 years old. So a couple years go by and she adds to that I have to learn how to cook too. So one day I'm in the kitchen and I'm loading out some bread, and my little sister, she runs on in and she grabs herself a piece of bread. She eats that bread and it's so good. She reaches out to grab another piece and I shush her away because I do not know where Miss Ashley is. But Miss Ashley, she is in the kitchen, and she walks on over. She don't say a word. She just walks on over. She grabs herself a stick and she gets it nice and hot. And she walks on over to my sister. She don't say no word, and she's just walking over and she's about to hit my sister with that shovel. Now, would you let somebody hit your sister? I would not either. So I looked at her and my little 8-year-old self and I stood up and I said, "You will not hit Izzy." So she did not hit Izzy. Instead, she turned around with that big old stick and she ran it up my arm. And it was this big, boiling kind of mess. And it hurt so bad. But what hurt worse was that was the first day I knew what it was to be a slave. That was the first day I knew that I couldn't go up to somebody and say, "Hey, could you help me? She hurt me," because they would just kind of turn their back because she owned me. And I hated being a slave. And I had to live with that family for another 20 years. And Mr. Ashley, he became more and more prosperous, which means important. And he invited all of these very important people over. And they laid out this important paper on a table. Now, the only reason I know it's important is because I heard what it said. I could not read and I could not write because slaves were not allowed to. But I could hear what it said. And I was trying my best not to listen because Miss Ashley, she's still around. And just because she's older don't mean she's any nicer. So I'm cleaning those dishes, but I can't help but hear the words. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that all men have rights given to them by God Almighty. And among those rights are the rights to life, liberty, property. And in my head, all I can think of is all. They said all, all. And finally, these men, they start to leave. And as they're leaving, and I'm giving them their coats and saying, "Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming." Right in front of me, there's a good man. This good man, he is a solicitor. He does not believe in slavery. He's what they call an abolitionist. And I start to thinking. And it takes me a while to do what I'm going to do because I've got to get the courage to do what I'm going to do. And I start to one day in the springtime walk through town. And as I'm walking to town, which is about 7 miles, as I'm walking, I meet many people and they say, "Well, good morrow, Mum Bet. Good day, Mum Bet. Hello, Mum Bet." And they're calling me Mum Bet. Not just Bet, but Mum Bet. Why? Because Mum sounds like mom or mother Bet. And the reason that they call me that is because slaves sometimes learn skills. And I know that some people don't like that conversation, but it's true. Sometimes slaves learn skills. And my skill was that I was a midwife. And I would help deliver babies. And it did not matter to me if the baby looked like me or looked like you. I just saw these precious lives. And I think that because I saw their lives as being precious, the people kind of respected me as much as you could a slave. So I keep on walking and walking, and finally I've gotten my 7 miles to Mr. Sedgwick's. And I get to Mr. Sedgwick's, and I don't know about you, but if I've walked for a long time, I get a little sassy. So I knock on his door, knock, 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 and he opens up his door. And before he can say a word, I said, Mr. Sedgwick, I heard what you said the other day about the life and the liberty and the freedom and the private property. And he goes, uh-huh. And I said, and I want you to help me get mine. And he goes, uh-uh. Why? Why would this good man who does not believe in slavery not help me? And I said, but I heard what you said about our rights. All men have rights given to them by God Almighty. And he goes, yes, all men. All men have rights given to them by God. He said, no woman has ever sued for her freedom. Now, maybe if you had a man with you, we could do something. So he closes his door, and I feel so discouraged. And I start to walk my 7 miles back. And finally, when I get back to the plantation again, I'm very, very tired. And right in front of me is the biggest, the strongest, the mightiest man, the protector of the plantation. His name is Mr. Brom, but I call him Mr. Brawn because of the muscles. Mr. Brawn. So I go up to Mr. Brom and I said, Mr. Brom, we're going to go get our freedom. And Mr. Brom goes, oh, I don't think so. So why would this big, strong, mighty defender of the plantation say no? Well, let's think about this. He's terrified. If Miss Ashley would take a shovel and run it up the arm of an 8-year-old little girl and leave a scar for the rest of her life, then what would she do to 2 adults who brought shame to her? So I look at Mr. Brom and I said, I don't think you understand. This is our one chance. We have one chance. We have a man who will help us get our freedom. That means we will have a chance to have our own property, to be able to work hard and build something, be able to marry who we want, to be able to keep our families together. We have one chance. And I think that because I am a little bit dramatic, Mr. Brom decides that, all right, we'll go to court. So we go into the courtroom. And when we go into that room, it is filled with people. And absolutely none of those people look like us. And remind you, this is 100 years before your Civil War. And none of those people look like us. And my fate is in their hands. And they say, Mom, Bett, you want to say anything? And I do not, because I feel like I'm going to throw up. And the Ashleys are there. They're giving us the stink eye. And I look at those people, and as I'm looking at them, I go, wait a second. I helped that family deliver their baby last year. And that family had twins. And that one came over just last month because they were sick. And remember, I saw their lives as having meaning. And I think that because I saw their lives as having meaning, when the gavel came down, they saw my life as having meaning because I had my freedom. And so they take me into this other room and they say, well, or they say, Bett, you got to choose your name. And I didn't have to think twice. I love the name Elizabeth. So I said, my name is Elizabeth. And they said, all right, but now you need a last name. And I did not know what that even meant. And they said, it could be anything in the world. What's the most important thing to you? And I thought, you know what? 1 moment ago, I was a slave. 1 moment ago, had that gavel went the other way, I would have had no decisions I could have made for myself. They could have done anything. And if in that 1 moment somebody would have walked up to me and said, here's your freedom, here, take it. Take it. So you get your freedom, but you get it for 1 minute. And at the end of that minute, you just got to fall down dead. Then I would have taken it. I would have, because there's nothing in this world more important than being able to stand under God's green earth, a free person, being able to love who you want, being able to work as hard as you want, being able to build something, being able to protect that something that you have, being able to keep your family together, being able to give your family a name. There ain't nothing more important than that. So I looked at that paper and I looked at that judge and I stood up taller than I've ever stood in my life. And I said, my name is Elizabeth. Elizabeth Freeman.